Hello, I'm Enzo, and today I'll be playing more Oxygen Not Included Spaced Out. Just like every other day, we have a lot of projects to do. Starting off, yes, this is another unpowered gas filter. I think my final decision on unpowered gas filters is they have specific uses. If you're doing something extremely important, maybe they're not the best. But something with not much gas flow that will never back up like this should be perfectly fine. The system in mind is something to take carbon dioxide out of my base, because that's kind of an issue. So I'll be using small gas pumps with gas element sensors, so if the carbon dioxide gets too high, it should automatically pump it out. And the powerless gas filter to make sure we only dump carbon dioxide out into space. And let me tell you, it actually worked amazingly. Like, this is one of the best things I've ever made. And the reason I use the small gas pumps is because they don't take as much power. Powerless gas filter means even less power usage. In total, worked amazingly. Everything was going well. Yeah, I mean, you kind of figured what would happen when I said that. Thankfully, they did manage to save Jane Bart. However, I'm gonna have to deal with this poke shell problem. Duplicants are gonna be trying to take eggs and putting them in incubators. I can't have that. So we'll need a little bit of forced evolution, let's just say. Honestly, it's kind of satisfying to watch a lot of creatures be force evolved. The only issue that came out of this was how many duplicants that were actually injured in the process of it all. This episode is pretty much just a bunch of side projects all mashed together. The first one is going to be placing even more liquid reservoirs. That's because these geysers are open and they produce so much liquid I want to store it. And the main reason for wanting to store it is so that the bottom geyser can keep outputting and not be overpressurized by, tons of liquid on top of it. The other thing I keep meaning to do but forgot about for a while is moving the output of the bathroom to somewhere else, because I very much enjoy having working bathrooms for my colony. I also decide to check back and see how the AETN is working. I really should use these more than I do because this is amazing. It cools so much for such a low cost. It's awesome. We need more reservoirs. Let's just say there was way more liquid than I had expected. Hey, we at least need a few pilots. Starry-eyed too? I'll call this duplicant Arc Royale. Considering she's an aircraft carrier, I think it's a pretty fitting name for a pilot. It's hard to call the place an industrial brick when you only have one metal refinery. I'm gonna need to add a few more, especially for later on production. I've also decided that I do love this design just because of how it keeps the liquid flowing. It's hard for me to put it in perspective just how much liquid there was in this area. I mean, I have built up all of these reservoirs, and I've just barely scratched the amount of water that was actually down there. But at least the geyser below can start outputting now. Now that I have more manufacturing power, I'm going to start converting the normal heavy watt wire to heavy watt conductive wire, just for the future, and because I now have the resources to. I don't even think I could break the 20 kilowatt limit just yet, but honestly, it's probably best if I don't find out. So I want to at least future-proof my whole power spine. The thermal regulator has been so busy at work, it's actually managed to convert the water into steam in the steam room now. So that's pretty cool. At least it's good to know that the kitchen setup is working. I think this is a great setup and it works amazingly. I love this new design that I made. As the game goes on, duplicants with excavation skills become more and more useless, so I might as well give them something to do in the meantime. I want to dig out space, and I was going to do it eventually, but might as well do it now, considering they don't really have anything else to dig out. For a while, I was using iron to make the power spine out of, but I later did swap to copper and some other resources sometimes. It just depends what the most metal I have is. And because we had a lot of iron from all that rusty oxidizing. I'll be honest, at this point of recording, I hadn't played Spaced Out for a while, or at least haven't been into Steam Rockets in a while. I was extremely confused when I saw that you could use normal refined metals as your engine, so I had to look it up. Oh, okay, so it is different for Spaced Out, which is actually insanely convenient, and it is cheaper and easier to make. Cool. Combine this new knowledge with the fact we have boilers that make steam engines even easier to use, because it's one building instead of having to build a complicated steam room with gas pumps and everything. This makes rocket building extremely easier in the game. And with the Rocketry Expanded mod, we can make this awesome extended spacefarer module. This was changed in an update, well, a long time ago at the time of editing this, but in a little bit at the time of recording this. So I kind of got the perfect period where I could actually use this building before it got changed. I'll change the rocket setup a little bit, but the other cool building to note is on the top. There's a solar panel nose cone, which, makes the solar panels below it a bit more effective, but still, finally, a useful nose cone that isn't a drill cone. If your duplicants ever have unpermitted food, that usually means you either forgot your food permissions, or, like in my case, we have a food crisis. And that's why I keep micro mushers in the base, at least until berry sludge. The other thing I was hoping to happen when I turned on the AATN was to cool down the oxygen production, so I'm gonna have to find another way to cool down that very toasty oxygen going into my base. Oh, and here's probably my biggest issue with rocketry and oxygen not included, is the smaller buildings. I hate how every single rocket module, well not every single one, but some rocket modules are different sizes than others. Can't they all just be the same size so you can make very neat ladders and not have to branch out like this? Man, it's annoying sometimes. I had a great idea. So I was thinking I want to get into the oil biome on the second planetoid eventually. But duplicants need atmosuits so that they don't get scalded. Atmosuits require oxygen production, gas filtering, and a bunch of other setup. So I thought, what if I just sent a duplicant with an atmosuit? How bad could it be? Oddly enough, it actually worked insanely well. They do have to go up and find oxygen every so often, and they have a risk of suffocating if you don't refill their atmosuits, but it did work out in the end. In total, I decided to build 5 of these metal refinery setups. I mean, we're going to be making a lot of metal, and using even more later on, so I might as well have the industry there before I need it. Looking back at the footage now, I honestly should have taken this nails. Thinking about it now, I think 14 Cuisine does outweigh Mouth Breather, but I decided to choose the pom-pom knit. Honestly, I think I have a good idea who I should give this to. I thought it would just be funny if I gave it to Anchorage. Thinking about it now, this is completely unnecessary. I had no clue why I did this. Anyways, I'm putting heat sensors on all the pipes so that I don't make the crude oil too hot so it doesn't boil into petroleum. There's literally no use for this because it's not going to get that hot anyways. Why did I do this? On the second planetoid, I finally decided to go into the space biome. I mostly just wanted to place solar panels so that duplicants don't have to just be on the manual generator 24/7. I imported the glass from the main planetoid, in case that wasn't obvious. The teleporters are very useful. Our base is getting a little toasty due to the hot oxygen, the bathroom, and the manual generators in there, so I'm gonna have to cool it down a little bit. Most bases will require a cooling loop at some point or another. It's kinda just a fact of life. I always use granite because it has one of the highest conductivities of rock. I mean, excavation is the same, no matter where it's done. I mean, unless a duplicant gets stuck or something. I also sent San Diego over to help with digging and cleaning up the entire place. Back to the main base, and you can probably tell what water I use just from looking at the temperature. I don't want the water to stay in the pipes for too long or it'll get even colder than it already is. Next side project, solar panels. This is a far more efficient solar panel layout just because of game physics, I guess. The main reason I just made a straight line of solar panels at the beginning is because it's easier, and because I didn't have the resources to make this many solar panels. But now I do, so time to upgrade. I'm also going to be vacuuming out the space in the middle of the oil biomes for a very specific purpose, potentially in the next episode. We'll see. That's pretty much all the good footage I have without making the video another 10 or 20 minutes longer. If you like this video, consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribing. I'd appreciate it very much either way. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. And this is gonna be Enzo from LookIntoGaming signing out. Ah, you derpy, beautiful little duplicates.